Today, I want to talk to the roofers and restoration guys who have built their business around storms, specifically hurricanes. Coastal Contractor's the one who's chased the name storms, do the big insurance jobs, and live and die by what comes off the Gulf and the Atlantic. You know the rhythm. A storm makes landfall. The phone does not stop for a month, 2 months, and you make your whole year in a few brutal weeks. Then you wait for the next season. Here's the problem. This year, hurricanes might not be coming. And I'm not saying that's scary. I'm saying it because the people whose entire job is forecasting this just told us in writing what to expect. And if your business runs on hurricanes or relies on it heavily, you need to hear it before your competitors do. So let's talk about what is actually coming this season, who this does and does not apply to, and what the smartest contractors are doing about it right now. Let's go. So every year, the official hurricane forecast comes from an agency called the NOAA. If you've not heard of them, NOAA stands for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They are the federal science agency that runs weather, climate, and ocean forecasting for the entire country. National Weather Service is actually a part of the NOAA. So when you see a hurricane forecast on the news, when you get a storm warning on your phone, it's coming from these folks. The reason that matters to you is simple. The NOAA is authority. This is not some guy on YouTube guessing. This is the official government forecast that insurance companies, emergency managers, and every meteorologist in the country are working off of. And here's what they said for the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season, which runs from June 1st to the end of November. They are predicting a below normal season. They're forecasting 8 to 14 named storms. Of those, 3 to 6 become hurricanes, and only 1 to 3 become major hurricanes. Just to put that into context, an average season has 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. So we're looking at the low end across the board. But why? There's one main reason. Weather pattern called El Nino is developing, and El Nino tends to suppress Atlantic hurricane activity by creating more wind shear that tears storms apart before they grow. NOAA has high confidence in this. Now I have to stop and be crystal clear about something, because I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way. This forecast is about hurricanes only. It's not regarding hail. And if you're watching this from Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, the Plains, somewhere in the Midwest, anywhere your business runs on hail, this is not your forecast. Hail does not come from hurricanes. Hail comes from a completely different weather systems that meteorologists call severe convective storms, which is basically powerful thunderstorms and supercells. That's its own beast. It runs on its own patterns, and a lot of you have already been hammered by it this spring. So if some headline tells you quiet storm season ahead, do not let that lull you to sleep, because it's talking about the coast, not necessarily your belt. Here's a part that should actually get your attention, though. Severe convective storms and the hail and the wind events now cause about as much insured damage in this country as hurricanes do. In some recent years, more. So hail is not the little brother of hurricanes, it's its own giant, as many of you know. And the honest truth is the science on whether a given summer will be a heavy hail year or a light one is murky at best and changes from region to region. Nobody is handing you a clean forecast for that. So put it together. If you're a coastal contractor, hurricane driven, you rely on these storms, the NOAA just told you the well might be running a little bit dry this year. If you're hail driven, nobody can promise you anything either way, and you've likely already seen how unpredictable it is. Hopefully you're off to a good start this season, which lands us in the same place no matter which storm is your storm. The question is not, will a storm save me this year? The question is, what happens to my business if that does not happen? And this is the rest of what the video is about. I want to reframe how you think about storm work, whether your storm is a hurricane, hailstorm, because this is the mindset shift that changes everything. Storm leads feel like a strategy, but they're not. It's a lottery ticket. When the weather cooperates, you win big and cash out. When it doesn't, not so much. You didn't do anything wrong. You just bet your livelihood on something you have zero control over. And that's not a spot I want to see you in. And we just spent 5 minutes, illustrating that point. The hurricane guy got a forecast he does not like, and the hail guy cannot get a reliable forecast at all. Either way, you're not the one holding the cards. The sky is. Mother Nature, and she's a fickle beast. Think about the business you actually respect, the ones that are stable year after year. None of them are sitting around hoping for an act of God to drive revenue. They've built something that produces customers on purpose, on a schedule, whether the conditions are good or bad. There's a concept in business called a moat. And if you think about a moat in the simplest form, it's a body of water. Used to be around a castle, which would make it harder for people to infiltrate, right? As a contractor, your moat is not one grade lead source. And we could take storm out of it. And if you've got everything coming from one channel, Facebook, Google, doesn't matter, it becomes much less likely that you're going to have predictable lead growth year over year because you have no diversification. So your moat is having so many different ways that customers find you that no single one of them can sink you if they dry up. If Google changes the algorithm tomorrow, you're fine. If your ad costs spike, you're good. If the storms don't come, it's okay because you're not standing on one leg. You're standing on all the legs, baby. That is what we're going to build. Not a pitch, just the actual menu of ways a home service business gets customers so you can go pick the ones that fit you and start stacking them. Let's walk through the real options. I'm going to give you some of the honest versions of each one, the upside and the catch, because every one of those have a trade-off. So think about local SEO and Google presence, showing up when somebody in the area searches for roof repair near me or your specific service. A lot of upside, tons of people using the platform. It's intent-based. These are people actively looking to buy, so they're more bottom of funnel than just generic queries like, hey, should I use a metal roof or an asphalt shingle roof? And once you rank, those leads come in without you paying for every single click. It compounds, and it's an asset that you own. It's fantastic. The catch is, and it's an important one, it's a slow process, right? And it's much more influenced by updates that you don't have any control of. So SEO is kind of like a tree, not a vending machine. You plant it now, can produce for months from now, which is exactly why waiting is so expensive, and we're going to come back to that. Then you have Google ads, or soon, now ChatGPT ads, paying to show up at the top of those searches instantly, right? The upside is speed. We get there quick. You turn it on today, have a qualified opportunity by this afternoon, because again, these people are searching with intent, and because they're searching and you're paying for that exposure, you could show up when they're looking. The catch is you're renting, you don't own it. The second you stop paying Google or ChatGPT or Bing or any platform, the leads stop. Summers, it's most expensive because it's the most competitive time. Everybody wants the work, so everybody's bidding on it. Or when a storm comes, same type of deal typically. So it rewards the people who actually know what they're doing, and with targeted landing pages and optimized conversion experiences and things like that. Meta's a massive opportunity, ton of people on Facebook and Instagram, but it's a different animal. The intent's not there. People aren't going to Facebook thinking to myself, I can't wait to find a roofer that targets me with an ad. And they're certainly not going there proactively to be like, hey, I need to go find a roofer. So instead of catching demand, you're creating it, which is cool. You put a compelling offer, piece of content in front of homeowners in your area, and you generate the interest that didn't exist a second ago. The upside is it's typically much cheaper to reach people there and to fill out your funnel with homeowners from Facebook or Instagram than it is Google. The catch is that it's lower intent. So, you're following up, and your nurture has to be dialed in super tight and consistently. Otherwise, leads go cold, and you're not going to see the success that you want. You'll see a super low cost per lead, but probably a pretty high cost per acquired job. So highly recommending having a supplemental content consistently going out in neighborhoods that you service as well on Meta. This increases the likelihood that you'll land jobs on the Meta platforms. So between publishing content, being active on local Facebook community groups, and running some ads, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity that you should and could and should capitalize on. The next one I want to dive into are going to be opportunities that are procured through referrals and network marketing. This one's criminally underused, and it's basically free. Talking about building relationships with people who are around homeowners all day. I break it into two types of folks. Two buckets: tag team trades, power partners. You might be asking yourself, like, Mike, what in the world are tag team trades and power partners? And to that I say, I thought you never asked. That's a great question. Tag team trades are vertically adjacent contractors selling your target market, homeowners, different services at the same or different times as you. Think HVAC, plumbing, electrical contractors, landscape contractors, swimming pool contractors. These are incredible opportunities to create win-win-win situations, and they're the best types of outcomes, right? If we have these types of partners in our network and we can send them business because we know, like, and trust them to do well for our customers, and they feel the same about us, it creates this ongoing lead flow where the homeowners win, they win, and you win. And again, as we just covered, those are the best situations, are where everyone wins. Then you have the power partners. These are anyone who touches, talks to, or influences your target market before they even know who you are. Think home inspectors, real estate agents, insurance agents. Aside from doing cold outreach, you can leverage community groups like BNI, for instance, chambers of commerce. These are incredible platforms that you can get integrated into that will facilitate a lot more opportunities for these types of relationships to come to fruition, aside from trying to just pick up a phone and cold call people. The great thing about these approaches is that they'll build the warmest leads that you're ever going to get, because they come built in with a recommendation from somebody who the person that's in your target market is already having some trust in, right? The catch is it takes time, and it is genuine relationship building. You can't turn it on overnight, and you can't fake it. And that's a beautiful thing about it as well. Like, you're competing where a lot of contractors don't and can't, but a handful of strong referral partners can feed you guys for years, and it really can transform a business. For community outreach and local presence, this is another underutilized aspect of developing a company, a brand, and opportunities. So it's being real, being visible in the place that you serve. So whether that's sponsoring a little league team, showing up to local events, being the contractor that people actually recognize, done right, even direct outreach in neighborhoods where you just did a job so the neighbors can see your work and your name is incredibly beneficial. And the upside that you get is trust and brand recognition that you can't buy with any ad, especially in smaller markets where everybody knows everybody. The catch is it is a long game and it's hard to track a clean return on it. Look, guys, I know everybody wants attribution in a spreadsheet where they could say, I spent this much, I got this in return, here's my profit. But it doesn't always work like that. That works well for a lot of performance-based marketing, but on the other side where you just have brand, even if you're somewhere in the middle, it's not always going to fit into a spreadsheet that's going to make you feel warm and fuzzy about the time, money, energy, and effort that you invested. Now, here's the point I don't want you to miss. I'm not telling you to go do all 5 tomorrow. It's a great way to do all of them poorly. But what I am telling you to do is look at the list, be honest about how many of them you're actually doing right now. Maybe the answer is 1, or worse, like none. We do storm work. You don't have a moat. You have a single point of failure. And this would be the season that has the strongest likelihood of exposing it. The time to start was 6 months ago. Here's the one part that's going to sting, and I need you to sit with it. The best time to build all of this was 6 months ago, 12 months ago. Back in the winter, in your slow season when you had time and you weren't slammed. If you planted those seeds then, started doing some of the community outreach, network marketing, your SEO would be maturing, your referral partners would be warmer, your ad accounts would have data and history that would be working in your favor present day. And most of you may not have done that, and that's okay. And that's probably why you're here. And look, I get it. Like the winter, you're worried about cash. You're not really investing into things that pay off later. You're trying to worry about like, how can we get through the winter? So I want you to consider this. If the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the good news is the second best time is today. So let's get it. You can't go back and change what's already done. You can't go back and start in January. That window's closed. But what you can do is refuse to let another 6 months go by, because if you keep waiting, we're gonna have the same exact conversation in December, except then it'll be, talking about your Q4 and how unproductive it was. That's not what we want, right? The contractors who win the back half of this year are not the ones who got lucky with a storm. And maybe there's exceptions, but they're the ones who decided on purpose that they were done depending on luck. So what does starting today actually look like? 2 moves at the same time. First one is raise the roof. Yeah. That's everything we just talked about. Add new ways for customer to find you, more lead sources, more reach, more demand coming in the top. But raising the roof, if you're losing a bunch out of the bottom by ignoring the second move, which is fixing the floor, would not be productive, right? So we could have all the leads we want coming through the top of the funnel, but if, again, there's a hole in the bottom and it's just falling out, it's not netting us much of a difference. So what do I mean by that? Make sure our lead intake processes are dialed in. Make sure that our nurturing processes are dialed in. Make sure that our sales reps are following up on the opportunities that we have. We want to make sure that we're getting everything that we can out of every opportunity that's presented to us. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to change is your profitability. If you're putting in more human capital and money into marketing and advertising, because you're closing at 30%, but you could be closing at 40% by fixing some foundational issues within the company, you're trying to pay your way out of a non-money issue. And that's the quickest way for you to drop a couple points in net profit. With doing that on a couple million or more dollars is a lot of money. So let's do both at once. Let's raise the roof, fix the floor. We'll get more coming through the top, less leaving out the bottom. And that's how you build a business that doesn't need to survive a storm. But you got some homework, and I want it done this week. Not after your next job, not after the following one, not when you feel like it. We're going to get it done this week. 1, look at the list of 5 lead sources and write down how many you're actually doing. I want you to be honest with yourself. 2, pick one new one and start building it this month. Just one. And maybe you do it and you do it poorly. It's still progress over perfection. We got the ball rolling. Just start it. 3, find an opportunity to improve your process. The floor, right? What we were talking about as far as, nurturing, as far as lead intake, as far as follow-up. One place where we're losing opportunities, and let's fix it. And that's it. That's how you build your moat instead of waiting on weather. If this was useful, please subscribe, because the whole channel is about helping you grow on purpose instead of by accident. I'll see you on the next one.